Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to change your stem. Right now I have a stem that's a little bit too long. I want this one to be shorter so that it gives me a little more front end control on the bike. I got a Pro Max 48mm for my cruiser. I think it's going to be the best fit, but we're going to give it a shot. All you're going to need today is just a simple 5mm Allen key and a 6mm Allen key, depending on if that's the size of your stem. Because usually the 6 is going to go on the side, 5 is going to go in the front. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the bars off by unscrewing these 4 bolts. You should always unscrew and screw these in a 4, like, just kind of star pattern. So 1, diagonal cross, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now you got to make sure you're holding your bars for this part, because once all of these are loose, they're just gonna flop. And nobody likes floppy bars. So a lot of times for this part, it's easier to have a partner. Alexis.
Yeah.
And she's just gonna make sure that the bars don't fold over and hit me or mess up the bike or anything while I'm doing this. Once you get to a certain point, it really doesn't matter the order, you just want to kind of get them all off. Especially if someone else is holding the bars, it's quicker to just do it with your fingers. So pop that off.
I can't.
Bars are free. Now we're going to go ahead and lay those down. Alright, so earlier I accidentally told you that all you would need is a 5 and a 6. Well, turns out my headset is an 8 on the top, so I had to run and get that tool real quick. One thing you're going to do, loosen the 2 side bolts first. Ooh, had mine really tight. Last time I rode this bike was in the rain, so everything's a little seized up on me. One way to prevent seizing up is to put that grease on your bolts, the spindles, like I showed you in a previous video. At this part, since you're going to be twisting counterclockwise, it's going to spin counterclockwise. So you're going to want to put your knee behind your wheel to kind of stabilize it. And go ahead and pop off your stem. Alright, so now you're ready to introduce your new stem to the equation. What you got to do first is loosen your side bolts. Alright, once you've done that, this really depends on which way you like your stem to sit. If you want it to sit lower, you can flip it like that. If you want it to sit higher up, you can flip it like that. Some people say that this is upside down. It's really just a personal preference. So, because I run mine flipped downwards on my 20-inch, I'm going to do the same thing on my cruiser. Once you put that stem on, it's going to spin, well, it's going to be pretty loose, depending on what size you got. You want to make sure there's not too much wiggle, because you want to make sure you got the right size. I do. I got a 1 1/8 on there, so that'll fit. Now I'm going to put this top bolt of my headset back on. Next step, put your bars back on. So to do this, you're going to want to take these off. Sometimes when they come from the factory, they might be a little bit tight. So when you're done unscrewing those, that's going to pop off. You'll notice it's all nice and greased up in there because it's brand new. So that's good. You can just slap it on like that. You're going to want to put your bars back on. Make sure your brake cable's not twisted around. I had to make sure mine wasn't. So get that back on. So remember, when you're tightening it back on, to tighten in that star pattern so it goes on evenly. So you're also going to want to make sure your bars are centered. The way you can tell, there's a little bit of the edges where it's patterned, so it's got a little bit more grip to it. You want to have that sticking out evenly or not showing at all on either side, depending on how far it goes. So mine looks pretty good. So now we got those bars tight, but not too tight. So you might have to go back and adjust them in a minute. That'll be in a later step. You want the bottom, the space on this, to be even with with the space on that. Mine actually looks like I have a little too much space on the bottom, so we'll adjust that in a minute after we get the stem tightened down. Now you're gonna make sure that your bars are straight. You're gonna go back to those side bolts. You're gonna tighten those up. These are another set of bolts that you're gonna wanna tighten evenly. So once you got those a little snug, then you're gonna wanna tighten down that top bolt to make sure your headset is tight. You're gonna wanna do this in little increments and then kind of feel to make sure that it's tightening up. Now we're to the part where you got this and these tightened down a little bit, and you want to make sure that your bars are straight. So you're going to look at your front wheel from above and kind of put your hands on the grips to see how it feels and if it looks straight to you. Because if it doesn't look straight to you, that's the only person that matters and you're messing up. Mine looks pretty straight to me. I'm going to go ahead and tighten down these side bolts. Alright, so once you get your bars straight, then you got these tightened down. You don't want to tighten down on that just a little bit more to make sure it's snug. Usually it's just like a tiny little like eighth of a turn. Now I'm going to show you how to make sure your bars are in line with the forks. So what you're going to want to do is you want to get a couple spokes about lined up with your forks. Step on your wheel, not hard obviously, just enough to hold it down. And you're going to want to make sure that your bars fall in between those two spokes that you're looking at. So I actually look like I got mine pretty right the first try, because you don't want them to be perfectly even with your forks. You want them to be slightly forward. I feel like that's the best balance for BMX to make sure you can always get control of your bike, backside, cornering, as well as a strong gate. So now that you know where your bars are supposed to be and you're going to go back and make those final adjustments, I told you earlier I didn't get mine quite right. So what I'm going to do is loosen up those top bolts a little bit, very gently to make sure I don't lose that spot on the bars that I already know I like. Alright, now I've loosened all of them, but I have the top two looser, so I'm going to tighten in on those bottom ones to kind of fill in that gap. This is about one of the only times you don't really need to pay attention to the star pattern until the end when you're tightening them back up completely. Then hit those last ones on the top. They should already be fairly snug. And you're going to want to go back to your star pattern for a minute. Just check them all, make sure they're all good and tight. There you have it, folks. That's how you change out your stem, as well as a little bonus on how to make sure your bars are right where they need to be for optimum race speed and performance. So, again, thanks for watching. If you have any comments, I'd love feedback. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.